You ever wonder what happens when someone decides they own something that's been yours for generations? Around here, land isn't just dirt. It's memory. It's blood. It's boundaries. And when someone crosses those boundaries, the fight that follows isn't always fought with fists. It all started with a creek. Not just any creek. My creek. The one my granddad dug irrigation channels from, the one my dad taught me to fish in, the one I'd sat beside on summer nights listening to crickets sing. That creek fed my pasture, watered my cattle, and kept my soil alive. Then came Linda. She was president of the HOA, and she wasn't like the loud and careless types who make noise just to get noticed. No, Linda was slick. She wore pearls and pastel sweaters and smiled like a politician. The kind of smile that hides teeth. At first, she came friendly, dropping by the ranch gate with a clipboard and a tin of cookies. Community spirit, she said. What she really meant was control. Her pitch was simple. The creek should be for everyone. She wanted to build a community greenway, complete with picnic benches, walking trails, and a kayak dock. It sounded harmless at first. But every word out of her mouth pointed straight to my land. She wanted to carve her dream into the very water that kept my ranch alive. I told her no. Politely. Respectfully. Boundaries matter. She laughed it off, like I hadn't spoken at all. Oh, don't worry, she said. We'll make it official soon enough. 2 weeks later, I found surveyors on my property. Yellow vests, measuring tape, hammering stakes right into the creek bank like they owned the place. When I confronted them, one of them shrugged and said, "Talk to your HOA president. We're just doing what she told us." That was the moment I realized Linda wasn't asking anymore. She was taking. I called the sheriff, and sure enough, the paperwork she'd filed made it look like the creek belonged to the HOA. Falsified maps. Rewritten easements. A fake, public right-of-way claim. She even had a glossy brochure printed up, showing artist renderings of families kayaking where my cattle drank water. Neighbors started showing up at the creek, waving HOA flyers. "Isn't this exciting?" they'd say. "We'll have BBQs by the water. We'll kayak with our kids." They didn't see the erosion that would destroy the pasture, the contamination that would sicken the herd, or the simple fact that the land was mine. The trespassing escalated fast. Lawn chairs, beer coolers, kids throwing trash in the water. One evening, I found 3 teenagers lighting fireworks on the bank. Another morning, I caught an HOA board member hammering in a sign that read, "Future Creekside Park, HOA members only." Imagine standing on the land your grandfather bled to buy, and someone hammers in a sign that says you're no longer welcome. I tried every polite path first. Letters. Meetings. I even invited Linda herself to walk the property line, maps in hand, deeds in pocket. She declined with a smile. "It's out of your hands now," she said. "But my dad taught me that ranchers don't start wars. We finish them. Quietly. With paperwork. With patience. With truth." So while Linda threw parties by the creek, I started digging. County records. Historical plats. Water rights filings older than the HOA itself. And tucked inside the archives of the courthouse, I found gold, a 1924 water deed, handwritten in fading ink, proving my family's legal right to the creek and its banks for private agricultural use, exclusive, perpetual, and binding on heirs. Linda had her glossy flyers. I had a century-old legal weapon. But I didn't reveal it right away. Not yet. I wanted to see just how far she'd go. Because sometimes the best way to win is to let your opponent overplay their hand. And overplay she did. Within a month, she staged a community ribbon cutting, complete with balloons, a rented sound system, and a local news crew. Cameras rolled as Linda, in her pearls and pastel sweater, cut a red ribbon stretched across my creek. That night, I sat by the water, binder in hand, listening to the laughter still echoing down the subdivision road. My bulls grazed quietly behind me. The moon lit the survey stakes like warning flags. And I thought to myself, if Linda wanted a battle, she just declared war. The courtroom smelled like old paper and coffee. That's where all this was headed from the start. Linda thought she had the town charmed. She arrived in pastel again, a TV smile plastered on her face, flanked by 3 lawyers in pressed suits. She carried her flyers like gospel, her artist renderings like prophecy. Me? I walked in with a single binder, thicker than a family Bible. Inside, every survey, every deed, every sheriff's report. And that 1924 water rights document, folded carefully in a plastic sleeve like a relic. Linda's lawyers went first. They painted me as selfish, backward, unwilling to share community resources. They called the creek a public necessity. They showed glossy slides of kayaks and kids. The judge listened, expressionless, as Linda smiled, certain of victory. Then it was my turn. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't need to. I laid out the history, step by step. Photos of trash in the water. Sheriff reports of fireworks. Cattle health records showing contamination risk. Survey maps proving the creek sat squarely inside my deeded boundary. And finally, I handed the judge that 1924 document. The courtroom went silent as he read. The words were simple, exclusive, perpetual, binding on heirs. In one sentence, Linda's empire crumbled. Her lawyers scrambled, whispering frantically, but it was too late. The ruling was swift. The creek was mine, beyond dispute. The HOA was ordered to pay damages, cover cleanup costs, and fund erosion control. On top of that, they were fined for trespass, nuisance, and falsified filings. Linda's pastel smile cracked. Her hands trembled as she clutched her clipboard. Neighbors who once cheered her now whispered, eyes downcast, realizing they'd been duped. The judge compelled the HOA to fund a community restitution project, ironically, scholarships for local agricultural students. The very lifestyle Linda mocked, now funded by her failure. She resigned within a week. Not gracefully. Not quietly. She was booed out of the HOA meeting hall, shouted down by neighbors angry over skyrocketing dues and county fines. The queen of the creek was dethroned by her own arrogance. The new board president, a quiet man named Harris, came to see me at the gate. He didn't bring cookies. He brought an apology. "We're done fighting," he said. "Let's fix this fence and move on." I shook his hand. That's all I ever wanted. Over the next month, transformation swept the land. Crews hauled out trash by the truckload. Volunteers from the subdivision helped replant grass. Kids hammered fence staples alongside my ranch hands. For the first time in years, the fence line wasn't a battlefield, it was a boundary respected by both sides. One evening, as the sun melted orange over the hills, I walked that creek alone. No balloons, no trash, no ribbon cuttings. Just peace. The water sang the same song it had sung for my grandfather, my father, and now for me. Boundaries, once violated, can be rebuilt stronger than before. Linda vanished from the subdivision, her house sold at a loss. Maybe she found another HOA to haunt. Maybe not. Either way, she wasn't my problem anymore. What mattered was the lesson. Paper weighs more than shouting. Receipts are sharper than insults. And patience, that's the strongest weapon of all. So if you're facing your own Linda, remember this, stand your ground. Don't let anyone redraw your lines. Respect is earned by holding firm, not by yielding. Because at the end of the day, the land doesn't lie. And neither do the boundaries that protect it.